I'm going to try to get through this without having any issues, but there's no promises. Um, I want to start out by saying that this has been a very hard and difficult step in our life. Um, it has taken me a very long time to come to the understanding that I need to tell my story, not just to help someone else who may be going through the same thing or something similar, but so that I may finish my final step of letting go of my past completely, so that I may move on with my relationship with God. This is just a very small part of my testimony, but a very big one at the same time. At the age of 3, my parents were divorced. My brother was raised by my mother's parents, and I was raised by my father's parents. My brother has since moved on to be with the Lord. In the home that I grew up in, I had 2 uncles and 2 aunts that lived with us. While they were all there, things were wonderful. I had a great couple of years. When my uncle and my aunt graduated high school and moved away, my life changed. From the age of 3 to the age of 10, I would spend summers at home, and on the other summer, I would get to go and spend time with my mom's family when she wasn't able to come and get me. When she would make promises to come and get me and then not show up, there would always be an extravagant gift in the mail or a card, and if I was lucky, I would get a phone call to say, "I'm sorry, but I can't come this time." If my mom's family could not take me, then I had to go and spend another summer with my dad. From 3 years old to 10 years old, I was subjected to sexual abuse by my grandfather and my uncle. During a small portion of one summer, my aunt and her 3 kids moved in. I thought things were going to be good. My grandfather stopped and left me alone. But unfortunately, my uncle did not. He just added my cousin into the mix. So not only was it just me that was going through this, but my cousin also. We were made to do horrible things to not only him, but each other. We were made to watch while things were happening. The summers that I had with my father was the same thing, just a different household. At the age of 10, I decided to go spend a summer with my mom because she was actually able to take me. I broke down one night and told her for the first time what was going on back home. I told her that I did not want to go back. So she took me to a psychiatrist to get me help. I talked to the person once. After that, I clammed up and refused to talk anymore. From the age of 10 to 12, I was a complete mess. I started getting into drinking, smoking, learned how to do forgery so I could spend my mother's money to pay her back for the times that she left me alone. I had thoughts of suicide because I felt worthless, I felt dirty, and I felt like it was all my fault. From 13 to 15, I had moved to drinking hard liquor, doing heavy drugs, stealing, still smoking, and became sexually active. When I started to talk to a girl at school, Jennifer Halverson was her name. She convinced me to go to Wednesday night church one night. They were having a fun night with games and activities. There I was introduced to Bobby McGuire, which was our youth pastor, and Gail Chin, who would be my small youth group leader. At that time, I was 14 years old. It was the first time that I had really heard anything about the true God. I eventually started going every Wednesday. I stopped drinking, I stopped doing drugs, and I stopped becoming sexually active. At 16, I would meet a very special person in my life who later I found out was the man that God had chose for me to be married to. In 93, our first daughter was born and we were married. My dad and my baby sister came into town to visit for the first time. I was always afraid to not give him my number. I was afraid to not let him know where I lived. So from 10 years old, even though I was gone, to almost the age of 20, I was still scared of him. I was afraid to go anywhere alone with him, even as an adult. It was not until 2001, when my life was completely falling apart, that I seen him again. My marriage was close to ending. Our children had been taken from our home. The thoughts of suicide were coming back. The thoughts of feeling worthless and unuseful returned. But I decided I had nothing to lose, so I took advantage of the time that my house was empty. And I finally asked my father why. We talked for hours. By the end, we were praying together, we were asking God's forgiveness, and we both made a decision to start a clean slate. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't overnight that things got fixed. Our kids came home, my marriage started to get stronger, and slowly, even though it was still painful at times, my relationship started to mend with my father. I only had 15 years with my father that was good. Towards the last 5 years of his life, and 6 kids later, did I finally feel comfortable going places alone with him, and actually enjoyed our time alone together, talking and spending time together laughing. My father was taken from me by God too soon. I was not done rebuilding our relationship, but I will always be eternally grateful to God for the time that He did give us together, the love that we shared, seeing Him laugh and love and play with His grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren that He was able to see and meet. I pray that my story will help someone who may be going through something similar to know that no matter how big you think your storm is, there is always a light on the other side. That it can and it will get better with the love, kindness, and grace of God. And I would like to thank God for the courage to be able to stand here and do this for the first time in my life. A week ago was the first time I had even told my children about what had went on in my life. I went to thank my husband, who never left my side, even after he found out how broken I was. He stayed beside me all these years, helping me to fight the demon that was inside me, that was keeping me tied down. He always believed in me that I could beat it, and refused to let me think otherwise. To my children, who I told my testimony to the first time, I want you to know that your grandfather loved you with all of his heart, and that the person that you knew was the person that God had finally gotten a hold of. He was a godly man the whole time that you guys were alive and with him. To my pastors, past and present, for encouraging me to tell my story so I may finish my healing process. And last but not least, I would like to thank Phil for giving his testimony, which gave me the last little push that I needed to give mine, and encouraging me to go through with this and to not give up.